We're talking digital sports media, the rise of sports betting, and even a little esports with our friends from theScore. We are joined by Aubrey Levy. He is VP of Marketing and Content for theScore. Aubrey, pleasure to see you. Hope you and the team are doing well. How's everyone doing?
Thanks, Brandon. Good to be here. Yeah, we're all doing fairly well, adjusting like everybody, or having adjusted like everybody, and just trying to operate businesses best as usual, or best as possible.
Yeah, totally relate to that. Aubrey, for the audience, leads the content and marketing strategy at theScore, which is one of the more popular sports apps out in the media industry right now. Been getting a lot of attention lately as it's being more aggressively attacking the sports betting market. But before we get into that, Aubrey, why not you just kind of give us the rundown of what's new at the company? It's been an interesting history from its early days as a television network in Canada to now being a fully digital company, going way back. But let's keep things for what you guys have been up to lately. How has the app and the company overall really continued to evolve alongside who is the modern sports fan now?
So yeah, we'll forget the way back day of our linear roots in Canada, but for our recent history, our bread and butter has been mobile sports media with our core sport app, theScore, second largest sports app in North America, and we've been operating that business as our primary business for the past 6-7 years. And the big recent developments for us organizationally has certainly been our push into sports betting, which was an initiative we set in motion after PASPA repealed 2 years now. Mm-hmm. And a little bit prior to that too, another big initiative for the company was embarking into our coverage of esports. So we're happy to touch on both, but I think what our MO as a media operator is to be hyper focused on trying to understand what our consumers looking for from us and giving them solely that how to empower their experience. And I think one of the reasons we ultimately years ago, when we had the opportunity to exit the TV business and focus exclusively on mobile, is because back then we saw mobile would be the future of sports consumption, right? And this was like 7-8 years ago. Our mobile app had been growing incredibly well organically, largely in the US, where linear presence was in Canada. And so that was good indication to us that that was our future. And so we're always kind of attempting to keep our eye on to use the saying, where the puck is going. Mm. And we'd known for a while sports betting would have a serious would have its day in the US. We've always authentically covered sports betting within theScore from a content perspective. We talk lines, we've talked betting content, and always kind of knew at some point US would open up, and when it did, that would present an opportunity for us because we had engendered and built up a fairly high bet intending sports fan on theScore. So when PASPA repealed, basically it was a question for us. Okay, the opportunity is here. How do we want to play? Basically, two options on both ends of the spectrum: to go the route of what a lot of media companies have done, which makes a lot of sense for a lot of players, which is to take very lucrative advertising and marketing deals from the various sports books in market to leverage accessing their user base, or which is the route we ultimately took, which was to go whole hog and operate ourselves. Sure. And the reason we decided to do that was, at the end of the day, we found success by being able to, we won by product, right? Even in our media business, we're not the loudest, we're not the largest. If you look at the guys we're up against, like it's ESPN, CBS, Fox, Yahoo, Bleacher Report, all of these guys ladder up to huge, deep-pocketed corporate entities, right? And then there's us, this like independent sports media operator that's slugging well above its weight, its weight class, sitting at number 2. So on the one side, we've always had to win by being ahead of the curve and being hyper-focused on what our audience is looking for from us and delivering that. And on the other, it also provides us a level of pace and independence. So when we saw that sports betting was an opportunity, we realized pretty quickly that if we could find the right entry point, then there was a huge opportunity for us to be able to operate. Because in this world, just like media went mobile for sports, betting was going mobile and in play. And we had seen what had happened with sports betting all across the world, where it becomes heavily promotional. There's not a lot of player loyalty. They jump around from offer to offer. We kind of thought, you know what, if we can build a differentiated product that treats the bettor as a sports fan first and not as an isolated betting transaction, that would be a differentiated product. And the way to do that is to leverage our core sports app and offer betting as an option on top of that, not as a separate standalone transaction. And so the only way to do that is actually to operate it yourself, not to sell off that user to a third party. So that's what we've done. So we said we're going to operate. We went through the logistical, operational, regulatory, oftentimes complicated and challenging processes, and got live, and are happily and confidently the only media operator to be kind of whole hog operating their own sportsbook today, and seeing early success.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about it, but I'm kind of interested to dig a little deeper in that shift. Like you said, a lot, you can create sports betting focused content. A lot of media companies are doing that, but then it's a different ball game when you layer in that interactivity of whether it's something as simple as free to play games going all the way to being full-fledged taking sports bets. How does that interactivity layer change the ball game for you guys or any media company, really?
So on the operational side, a ton, right? You're going from being a free, accessible, a product that you don't even need to authenticate to use, right? So you can be a total anonymous user using theScore, to now layer on top of that a product that is regional, highly regulated, right? Very transactional, and dealing with a very complex and intricate backend process around accepting sports wagers. So operationally, there was a ton that had to be done. We basically stood up native sports apps, sports betting apps for iOS and Android in under a year, which was amazing to our team. Probably 10 months. We partnered with a backend technology company for Sportsbook called TheScore's that helped us with our backend Sportsbook engine, risk and trading, stuff like that. And then, had to find a market access partner. Our first one was with Monmouth Park in New Jersey that would get us our license. And then, had to put members of our team that go through that licensing process. So there's a lot on the back end that has to happen, a ton. And it's why it makes sense when you look at some of these big media companies that today they're taking the position, we're not going to go all the way down that path. This is a nascent industry. It's still regional heavily today, right? We're just going to take the big dollars that are coming our way from the sports books getting in market, and we'll wait and see what happens. But for us, we thought that was our opportunity. So on our end, logistically, a ton. It's been an almost company-wide initiative since we announced we were going to do it 2 years ago. But the end product, the end result, should feel exactly the opposite of that. You as a user of theScore and theScore Bet, once we've gotten you to download and go through the KYC process, the setup for your betting account, it should feel totally seamless and intuitive. And you should be having the experience that you're living on theScore, you're following a game, and right there, we've given you the ability to get live odds, see real-time betting markets, and even start to go down the funnel to create your bet slip from within the theScore media property. And then at the point when it's time to place the transaction, we take you over to the betting app. We validate, obviously there's a lot we have to do, making sure that you're within state, et cetera, and then get your bet in. But the idea is to be able to let you live on the media property and seamlessly take you to the betting property to get your action in and get you back to the media property to follow. So it's not just the technical complexity of standing up a native sportsbook, but it's also then the complexity of how do you build that proper interconnectivity between the two products. You have a genuinely seamless and integrated ecosystem between media and betting, which is our differentiated take, right? Where all these other books in market fight tooth and nail to keep you sticky, to keep you coming back to their book. leveraging heavily promotional tools and incentives. The name of the game for us is to keep you within our product ecosystem. See the joys of working from home. Sometimes the door breaks open a little bit. So that product differentiation is critical for us. So taking even a step further, having gone from just operating a media platform to now operating all the complexity of a sportsbook plus the complexity of a sportsbook heavily integrated into a media platform was no short order for our guys, but I think they've done an amazing job, and it speaks to the early success that we're having.
For sure. You mentioned Monmouth Park and New Jersey there. Keeping Vegas and Nevada aside, the state of New Jersey has been on the front lines of a lot of this, and we see the reports seemingly weekly of the big numbers as far as revenue generation is concerned, as far as sports betting in the state of New Jersey. What have you guys learned in New Jersey, in addition to the seamless integration within the app, some of those kind of practical executions that you've talked about already? What in New Jersey, working there, have you guys learned about this, and how might it impact some of your future releases in states like Colorado or Indiana?
Yeah, so New Jersey was really like, okay, you're in the deep end of the pool, go, right? Like it was our first, like for most sportsbook operators, it was their first market in the US. But for us, it was our first market in the U.S. It was already hotly heated with competition by the time we got there, right? I think Jersey has over 20 sportsbooks operating. So New Jersey for us was nothing but learnings the entire way through, right? How are we optimizing our onboarding flows? What promotions are working for users? And all through the lens of, okay, well, this works in Jersey. I think this will work elsewhere. But Jersey, to your point, has become such a competitive marketplace, such like an early boon of sports betting that we just rolled out into our second and third states this past month, into Colorado first and Indiana shortly thereafter, and applied like a lot of the learnings. Right, we learned a lot of what those integration points were that worked for users. Right? We had ideas of how we would put integrations into theScore to get them coming over. We really validated which ones were performing, and encouragingly, the integrations at large were really, really, really performing. So now it's about doubling down into areas there, and you'll see some stuff rolling out from us in the coming months that are basically taking what we call our Fuse integrations and supercharging them. Without giving away too much, you'll see as we roll those out, that's basically all doubling down on behaviors that we saw coming out of New Jersey. Promotional offers that work for users, right? Free bets versus bonus cash, right? The name of the game for us is we're not focused as heavily on going large and loud with external marketing. The name of the game is getting our own users betting with us as a starting point. So what offers resonated to our users the best? And even in a market like New Jersey, where because we were there a year after the competition, users of theScore were probably already betting on other sports books, right? We know they were because we know they bet. We know they're bet intending, and if we're not there to offer it to them, someone else is going to offer it to them. So what works for our users, how to get our users, how to win their minds towards our sports book if they've already started playing somewhere else. Now, fortunately, in new markets we go into, we're not as far behind on that, so we have to do less of a job on winning back our own users, but. How do you message to your own user versus messaging to a user you might be acquiring through a paid third-party channel like Facebook or Google or Apple search? I feel like I'm giving you just a bunch of top-level generalities about what these are, but it's like literally when I'm thinking back to like what we learned, I feel like every week it was, okay, that's interesting. What about this? It was an incessant kind of education process for us.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Oh, really interesting insights there. Before we let you go, and you've been really generous with your time, Aubrey, really appreciate it. Wanted to touch on esports a little bit, another exciting growth vertical, not just here in the United States, globally. In what ways is theScore crafting a unique identity for itself, and how you guys trying to establish yourselves as a go-to destination for people who are interested in esports?
So esports is an interesting beast for us. We rolled out our esports offering 3 years ago.
Okay.
Honestly, my time has gone into a vacuum
Like
during the
2020
past
doesn't count. So.
like literally somebody asked me my age earlier, and I had to think about if I forgot I had a birthday this year. Anyway, it we launched esports initially under the pretense that we do mobile-centric delivery of scores and news very well. Let's apply that to esports, because no mainstream sports media company had started doing that yet. So the idea was to strategically leverage our core competency and build into a new vertical. As we did that, what we learned pretty quickly, we knew that esports audiences had to be catered to and treated differently than sports audiences. They're like, you have to be very, you have to approach them like their own beast. You can't treat them as, the 13th sport in your website hamburger menu of options, as our president likes to say. So we knew we had to treat them as the distinct audience, but we thought they would want a mobile-centric scores and news product. Turns out we got there, we were marketing that very heavily, and realized it wasn't getting the traction we thought. So we had to pivot that offering very quickly to try to understand what they were looking for, and it became a video play for us. And we've never really, as a digital company, been a video-first offering by any stretch, right? It's largely data, scores, news. And here we had to build out a video competency to cater to these esports audiences that were largely still on desktop, still like streaming, watching gameplay. And we built out, we found a lane there where basically the realization we came to, the discovery we had was that in the world of esports, it's still so nascent from a media perspective, which is crazy to think about because of the incredibly large audience numbers that esports events draw and esports viewership draws. But the development of it as a media market is still so young that most of the big name players and teams, unless you're endemic to that game, you have no awareness for. Certainly outside of the world of esports. But even within games in esports, you might follow League of Legends, you don't follow Counter-Strike. You might follow Valorant, you don't follow Overwatch. And so we knew quickly that there was an opportunity to try to help broaden the understanding of what are the teams, what are the games, what are the moments that matter here, and get underneath it a bit and tell the emotional storylines of what's driving this. Like at the end of the day, there's amazing stories of who these players are, who these teams are, what these moments are that make this gameplay interesting. So we focused on that, and we built up a VOD content strategy where we built 7 or 8 different video series. Everything from a story of, which is a biographic series we do, to esports shorts, which breaks down moments around esports, to our reporting series, Don't At Me. These are all VOD. They all live primarily on YouTube. And we cover across the spectrum of esports, every game, and now even broader into general gaming and streaming culture. And we go incredibly deep and make sure that every piece we do is equally appealing to the most hardcore endemic fan of that game and has a broad base enough appeal to any non-endemic. And off of the back of that strategy, we found some pretty good traction. So we've been 2 years plus on that now. Now we reach north of 15, 20 million, get north of 15, 20 million views a month on our content, a YouTube footprint of a subscriber base of like 1.5 million. So in the world of esports media, we still have a long way to go, but we are very happily and confidently now, on the sports side, we're perpetually number 2, chasing down the big red gorilla in the room. On the esports side, we are one of the largest, if not the largest, esports media player in North America. And so the name of the game there is to totally not give up that leadership position, build it further, expand our offering, and then maybe at some point when esports betting becomes a material kind of betting opportunity in North America, we now have a large audience to address to market those guys into as well.
There you go. That's the 2 sides of the talisman coming together, right? All right, Aubrey. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Exciting things on the horizon for you guys at theScore. We really appreciate you stopping by, and good luck with everything the rest of the way this year.
Thank you, Brandon. This was great. Appreciate it.
All right. He is Aubrey Levy. He is VP of Marketing and Content for theScore. Check him out in the App Store on your mobile device if you haven't already. And for more fantastic SVG on demand content, head on over to sportsvideo.org.